Y'all, we thought we had it all, but we kept talking. We kept talking.
Right.
Okay, so I had a question for Kyana about I guess communicating when you have been hurt. I typically sometimes can say I was offended, or at least in my head, I'm like, I was offended when she said that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you were telling me what about saying I'm offended?
The reason why we got to that, Brianna, remember, it was because we went back to the comment we made about, can somebody make you feel the type of way?
Yes.
And what I said was, you can feel, you cannot like somebody's behavior. And the way to be able to communicate that is, for instance, if somebody smack you, is to be able to say, I felt disrespected when you slapped me, and I would like for you not to slap me anymore. Right. You take responsibility for how you feel. And so what happens is sometimes people will say, I feel offended, right? But I ask people, what does offended mean? What does that mean? And a lot of times you want to share how you feel about it. But a lot of times share how we feel is so vulnerable. Yeah. It makes us feel exposed. We don't like letting people see our weakness. We don't want people to feel like we are weak. So we got to say things like, I feel offended. I just feel like you should have did that. But what do you feel? So the goal is to be able to say, I feel, because you want to own your own emotion. That belongs to you. Don't give people the power to make you feel and not feel. Yeah. You own your feelings, and you let them know, based upon this action, I feel, like I say, I feel disrespected when you lie, and I will appreciate it for you to tell me the truth. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. I had to share that because it was mind blowing. A lot of times, and this takes practice, right?
Yes, absolutely.
I think you mentioned it before. You think you're good, on something until you're in the ring and you have to face the thing again, right?
Yes. So, yes. And that's the importance. We're gonna say this. That's the importance from understanding that you're human and no one is perfect. Right. Somebody just told me a quote, and they said, we become great lawyers when we make a mistake, and then we become great judges when other people make a mistake. Ooh, and the goal is to be able to understand we all make mistakes. So if I make a mistake and I accuse you, whatever I do, I get to come back and say, I handled that wrong. I apologize.
Yes, own that.
Yes, own your stuff. And then because you act it if you want to. That's being authentic. Authenticity says, let me see what it is. Ooh, I don't like that. Let me correct my behavior. Yeah. Because it's mine. I own it.
Yeah.
Makes sense? Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
And in that, I was learning, but it's still a lifelong. It's a lifelong. It is, because there are stuff even today that I have to fight those. Who you think you are? Who you think you are to help people? Who you think you are? You come from this, or you're not good enough. I still hear them thoughts. I tell my clients all the time. The goal is, you can't stop a thought from coming. Right. But you can address it, right? Right. You intrusive thoughts are those thoughts that come out of nowhere for whatever reason, and they come to rain on your parade. Yes. But you get to now say, wait a minute, wait a minute, this is a lie, right. and here's the truth. Here's the truth about this. That's a lie. I am enough. I do belong in this room, and whatever that room may be. And so now you got me going through therapy, and I recognize through that friendship, and then we move on. So I'm a little healthy, but then I'm a little healthy, and then I get married. But so what I'm going to preface this with is that every experience is an opportunity to learn and grow.
Absolutely.
Whether that experience is positive or whether that experience is negative, we still get to grow. If it's positive, we get to grow and learn about ourselves. So if it's positive, you get to learn, this is what I like. And here's why I like it. Right. And if it's negative, this is what I don't like. Right. And this is why I don't like it. Right. And so one of the things with me getting married, and especially I got married older. So I was 32. No, I turned 33 when I got married. And one of the things that I had to realize was that I overlooked a lot, because I recognized, let me say this, after I got a divorce, what I realized is that I married my mother.
Ooh, wow.
Right.
Wow.
So most people think you marry your dad.
Your
I didn't
father,
have
that's what you
right.
hear. Yes.
I didn't have a relationship with my dad. My dad, you know, I can count on my one hand how many interactions that I can recall from my dad. And my dad died when I was 15. Right. So we were not able to build that type of relationship. And so when I got married to someone who was very similar to my mother. And in a sense of, remember, growing up, I was used to not to fending for myself. I was used to, I know how to function in dismissive behavior. I know how to function in people who separate themselves from me. Whenever my mother didn't like something, she would tell you, if it was me and my older brother grew up, he's 8 years older, she would say, "You're dead and stinky to me." She would get mad and she would say, "You're dead and stinky." And she would just cut you out of her life. She wouldn't talk to you. And so she would not talk to you. You would literally have to now go cook for yourself or whatever. And marrying someone with a dismissive flow, although now I can look at it and say, Kyana, that was not the best thing for you. It was comfortable because it reminded me of my past. Right. And that thing was familiar, and I learned how to be in that. Right. So the goal now we're gonna bring in authenticity, right? Because it was through my divorce that I learned the importance and how to teach authenticity through that experience, right? The one thing about my divorce is not about bashing my ex-husband. Right. I don't believe that people are bad. There's no person who has toxic behaviors or dysfunctional behaviors or unhealthy behaviors who have them 100% of the time, right? We have ands. Somebody can be caring and nice, and they can have a toxic trait. They can go home and beat their wife. He didn't beat me. I don't want to say that. They can go home, and these are just examples. They can go home and cheat. They can go home and lie. They can go home but in front of people, they're like the best thing since sliced bread. They're so cool, man. They real cool people, right? And so that's actually was like my mother. And so authenticity is the ability to address your issue for what they are without judging it, right? But just looking at it for what it is in a genuine light and saying, here's what I'm doing. Here's what I'm feeling. Here's what I'm thinking. And then making the decision, do I want to keep it or do I want to leave it alone? But I had to realize that because there were a lot of things I saw even before my marriage, even before the wedding. There were things, and I heard this before, there were things that, conversations that we were having, like, should we still do this? People don't know this. Should we still do this? But by this time, the dress had been bought.
Right, you done start planning. Right,
the venue, money had been spent, and now I'm thinking, so one of the things with authenticity, you have the authentic thought and then you have a rescue thought. So the authentic thought is the true thought, right? It's that thought that you think. Yeah. But if we don't like it and we judge it and we say, oh, that's so bad, we will use a rescue thought to take us out of that feeling of being judged. Even though it's coming from us, we rescue ourselves from that authentic thought and we create a whole nother thought. So one of the things that I did, I saw that we were not working, but I created a rescue thought and said, you know what? This is just jitters. This is just premarital jitters. And you're just, going through this now. You're afraid and this has never happened or whatever. But that was a rescue thought because I've heard it time and time again, before I got married, in class, everywhere, whatever you see in the relationship prior to you getting married, whatever red flags you see, those flags don't go anywhere. They actually enhance. Right? They enhance once you get into a marriage because now you're living together, you're sharing things together. There are things that you have to now be able to manage your emotions once you get into that space. And if you don't have those skills prior to, it's going to go. And that's kind of what we did. We kind of said, right? And so bringing it back all the way to marrying my mother and then being able to process that and recognize that there was still some codependency issues, even in that space, but it was more so from, I would say, I also had a mentor at this time.
Okay.
And the mentor, I realized, and being a Christian, sometimes in the Christian world, especially in religion, right? When you talk about church, we sometimes forget that pastors and leaders are human.
Yes.
Right? We forget that. And sometimes we think that they are all knowing, all powerful, or whatever, right? But we forget that they are a just like the Bible says, but a breath.
Yes.
Right? They're but a breath, a vapor, just like all of us. They have a purpose, just like you have a purpose.
Right.
And there was a mentor in my space that I wasn't fair to her. I put her in the space of God. And so I wasn't fair to her, and I wasn't fair to Kyana in doing that. And when I say God, of course, I'm talking about little G, because she wasn't a God.
Right.
But there was a lot of things that I needed her to validate any of my decisions, because I didn't want to make a decision, because in 2009, I made bad decisions with my friendships back then, and I don't want to make bad decisions now. And so that's the codependency piece. So we're talking about how the codependency get into your relationships, because you got my romantic situation with my ex-husband, then you got my friendship with my friend, and then you also have a mentorship that all stem out of codependency. Neither three of those are still in my space right now. Right? And it's not to dog them out. It's really to recognize that I had some unhealthy ways of relating to people, still trying to get that worth.
Yes.
Still trying to get that worth, and trying to, and especially, and each time that mother wound, each time, because it was an older woman, and she was like a mother figure to me.
Oh wow.
Right? And so going through that, and I realized there was so many things that I was not being authentic in those spaces. Because I tell my clients, you have to ask yourself why for understanding, not why with judgment, right? And the difference between the two is, why would you do something like that? Why would you even do that? That's typically when it's asked like that, you're not looking for an answer. You're just saying that was stupid. We don't grow from saying something is stupid. We don't grow from saying you dumb, you stupid. We grow from saying, why do you do that? Why? And really ask yourself, and then answer yourself. Really ask yourself, why? What's making me stay in a relationship with somebody who is abusing me? What's making me abuse somebody in a relationship that I say I love? Right? But you got to ask why for understanding. Not why am I even staying with this fool? Why am I even staying? This don't even make sense.
Even the tone is different. Like,
absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. And so this is what I do all day, every day, and help people to be authentic. And so much so now my clients will say, all right, let me give you the authentic thought.
Okay.
Yeah, they was like, they will say, all right, how can I be authentic in this space? Let me see. Because we're not used to, as much as people think that they're authentic, until somebody is in your face and helping you, not that that's the only way to become authentic.
Right.
But when you are in front of someone who is comfortable in their own skin, and who's not going to judge you, and I model not being able to judge you, and I'm really seeking to understand you, you get to the bottom of you. You get to connect with you.
I hear authenticity. I hear grace. I hear selflessness, because it's not about me. And I hear like that you've done the work, Kyana. And I thank you for, what God has done in your life, and that you have an opportunity as an adult to like live these things out, but not just live it out, but to teach it out.
Yeah.
And so I just want to say thank you for sitting down with us today. We had a mini session, y'all.
Absolutely. I appreciate it. This is wonderful. Thank you so much, Brianna, for having me. I'm so proud of the things that you're doing for the kingdom, for our field, even for yourself ultimately, right? Because you are doing a lot. You're being authentic in your space. You're being vulnerable, because authenticity is not vulnerability, right? Authenticity is being genuine, when vulnerability is saying, I'm going to give you a piece of me, right? I'm sharing a piece of me with you. And so you do both. And you don't get a lot of that, on social media and on, to be real with it. And I really appreciate that, where you could just get on here and just try to teach people. But you share your own stuff, you share your own, struggles, as well as your successes. And I really appreciate that. And I never give up on what you're doing.
Thank you for that encouragement. I received that because, you know, as someone who is doing the work or in trying to help others, it's a lot behind the scenes, y'all, just in case y'all don't know.
Absolutely.
And being tested, because there's nothing that I'm sure you can or I can talk about that we haven't gone through or experienced. So thank you for that encouragement. And how can people follow you? Like, how can we hear more from Kyana?
You follow me on social media. I'm on Twitter and Instagram, as well as Facebook. But Twitter and Instagram is at Kyana Speaks. You put that.
I'll put that at the bottom.
Right, Kyana Speaks, and then my website is Authentic Connections with an S at the end, TS.com, and that's because the TS is for therapeutic services, so it's Authentic Connections TS.com, and that's my website. And that's how you can stay, abreast. I'm on Facebook, Kyana Bradley, and let's go on a journey together.
Yes, let's go on a journey together. Kyana, thank you again for this.
Thank you for having me.
I can't wait to post this, guys. If you're not following her already, please do. And I just want to end it here and just say thank you.